Raider Nation. Thank you for joining us on the Only Nation podcast, brought to you by the Raider Ramble and sponsored by Chucky's Thugs. My name is Heidi, but you may know me as Kevlar Prom Dress or even Raider Ladybug. I'm here with Raider Homer and T3 Raider Facts, and we're ready to talk some Raiders football together.
Always ready to talk Raider football, even after we get our asses kicked.
Okay, it's time to get back on track. We need a big win at home against Mac and the Bears, so let's go.
Today on the show, we'll take a closer look at the Monday night game against the Chargers and talk about what needs to be fixed as we look ahead to the Bears at Allegiant Stadium. The Raiders are sitting at 3-1, but there is definitely some cause for concern.
All right, Raider Nation, this is the Only Nation podcast, and we want to hear from the Only Nation. So give us a call at 904-701-8667. That's 904-701-8667. You can leave us a voicemail, or you can send us a text.
Here's the latest Raider news.
For the third time in 4 games, the Raiders dug themselves a hole. This time they went down 21-0 before battling back to within a touchdown as they lost to the Chargers 28-14 at SoFi Stadium in front of a lot of fans decked out in silver and black.
The main reason that we are falling behind early in the game is because we cannot establish the run. You know, Gruden loves to run. I know a lot of people talk about how they can't stand the conservative play calls. It's so predictable because he runs up the middle all the time. But running the ball allows you to draw the defense up. And right now we really can't, draw them up because they don't fear the run. So we have to be able to strike fear in the heart of the defense with that run. And, of course, our offensive line is that cause for concern. Illuminor going out, Good going out before that. Richie Incognito being on the injured reserve list, the offensive line is in shambles. And that is the reason that we, in my mind, cannot start off the way that we need to start off because we cannot establish the run. If we were able to do that, first of all, we're going to take time off the clock and keep the ball out of the opposing offensive hand. So I think that once that offensive line gets back to where it was, then we will start to really establish ourselves early in the game. But these issues that we have with the offensive line are really starting to rear their ugly head, especially in this game and in the first quarter of the previous games. But we're still 3-1, even though we are concerned about the offensive line. We're still supposed to get Richie Incognito back, I believe, after next week, right? Illuminor hopefully comes back. And, they're working out Leatherwood and different positions. So that might open it up for Parker to come in. So they're moving it around. They're trying to do what they have to do to get this team up to par to play, to keep us controlling the clock and things like that. But this is definitely the way I did not want to start with all these injuries. Now on both sides of the ball. This has been an issue since Gruden came back. But I think last season we were talking about maybe them just not having the proper trainers. But I think we just have bad luck. So hopefully we can get some good luck going and get away from these injuries because we do have a good team. We have a good team. We just can't overcome all these injuries, and we'll see what happens. But this offensive line needs to play better. The next man up mentality has to show against the Bears. So let's see what happens.
In the typical Al Davis tradition, he used to always be pissed off when he would say, they always say, take what the defense gives you, but we want to take what we want. Well, maybe it's time for them to change the philosophy a little bit and take what the defense gives them. The Chargers were going to take away that long ball from the beginning, and they were going to challenge the Raiders to run, which they were looking for. So if the Raiders had gotten started off with the short game and then started chipping away at some of the rushers as they did in the second half, where they started to make the comeback, then I think if they do that early, they'll be in much better shape. So I don't think we're in as much trouble as a lot of people in Raider Nation think we are. I think we were due for a loss. We were due for a little bit of a setback. Now it's time to step up and take charge. No pun intended.
The Chargers outgained the Raiders in total offense, 380 yards to 213 yards, and they also had the upper hand in time of possession, controlling the ball for 34 minutes 42 seconds versus 25 minutes 18 seconds for Las Vegas. The Raiders just couldn't get the ground game going, and Carr was under constant pressure through much of the game. Still, despite the fact that the Raiders got off to another slow start, they still had their chances.
And I think that speaks volumes for this team, the fact that they were down 21-0 and they still had chances. They had numerous opportunities. They got back within 7 points and then were driving down the field when we had that critical sack toward the end and then the missed field goal. And I think that finally turned the momentum around toward the end. But I think they had their chances. They came back. They proved once again that they could pull themselves off the mat and battle through adversity. That speaks a lot for this team. And I think we're not in as much trouble as people in Raider Nation may think we are.
No, I was happy to see our team battle back. Yeah, of course, going down 21-0, that was ugly. Again, though, we got to be able to run the ball. That's where the major issue is right now. But the fact that they did rally in the third quarter shows to me that this team's not going to quit. They just weren't able to overcome their injuries, overcome all the issues they've had. There were people coming out of the game in this game. But the thing is, though, what the Chargers did is what we want to do. They were able to pick up those first downs when they needed to. They were able to get the offense off the field when we needed to. But again, I had a feeling that they were going to lose this game. But the way I look at it is, we take this loss, right? We're 3-1. It's not, the season's not over. We go back to the drawing board. We start to focus on the fundamentals and what we're doing wrong. We know what we're doing right. So this punch in the mouth should really ignite this team and bring this team together, especially with what Joey Bosa said after the game during the press conference, talking about how Derek Carr likes to get in the fetal position or whatever if he gets hit. But I will point out that one caller had a great point on the Raider Nation radio, I think it was the morning show, and he talked about quarterback sliding. You have to protect yourself as a quarterback. So that's kind of where I'm at with that whole situation. But again, if the offensive line can start to play well, we will still win these games that we need to win, and we will get in the playoffs. Again, we got Richie Incognito coming back. Illuminor should be back. And we can shuffle things around like we talked about a little while ago. But you're right, T3. It's not really time to panic right now. And it's definitely not time to call in and cry, call into Raider Nation Radio and cry about, this and this and that. You got to stay stoic, Raider Nation. We have to stay stoic. We're going to lose games. We're going to lose games. That's going to happen. We want to be able to learn from those games. We'll see what happens in Chicago. Like I said, this is the bounce back game. You got to win this one to really show the rest of the league that, hey, we're not going to go undefeated, but we're going to be able to bounce back. And that will prove to these players, like we were talking about last episode, them being able to prove themselves. This would prove to the team that they can bounce back, that when they take one on the chin, they can just shake it off and come back with the right cross. So big week coming up.
Yeah, it's definitely not time to panic. We're 3-1. And if you would have told me at the start of the season that we'd be 3-1 at this point of the year, I would have been very happy with that. Now, what we did see was disconcerting. The O-line is a huge concern, but it's definitely not time to panic. It's time for the Raiders to buckle down and get past the Bears. And what they need to do is they need to take the Bears seriously. They're an NFL team. They need to be prepared for them. Don't look at Broncos. Look at the Bears. Get ready for that. There's definitely time for us to get this season right. This is only one game, and we're definitely on the way. In terms of power rankings, the Raiders have now fallen out of the top 10 according to most polls. NFL.com, CBS Sports, and Yahoo Sports all have the Raiders power ranked at number 11 this week, despite the slow start and subsequent loss against the Chargers in Los Angeles.
I don't give a damn about these power rankings. They go up and down, back and forth, left and right, round and round, down the hole. You know what I mean? It's just whatever. The thing that I want to see is this team bounce back. To me, that's the most important thing, right? You got to be able to bounce back. Screw what all these polls think and all these power rankings and all this and that. That's not what we should be focused on. That's for the fans. This is a fan thing right here. They want to, people to read their articles and things like that. But, we are still a good team. The 28-14, we were down 21-14 in the fourth quarter until things went from bad to worst. And then we ended up losing by 2 touchdowns. But remember, we were down 21 points, and then we only allowed 1 touchdown in the second half. So the defense is still there. It's just the offense is struggling with the offensive line. And I'm not worried about these power rankings because next week, if we have a great game against the Bears, we'll be back in the top 10.
I love power rankings if for no other reason than it makes people think they're smarter than they actually are. Uh, when I take a look at how they've gone up and down, everybody was jumping on the Raiders bandwagon after last week, and they beat Miami. And now this week, everybody's jumping off the bandwagon again. So it's almost like the Fairweather fans are more than willing to rip off a jersey and put on a different jersey for a different team. The people that are within Raider Nation, though, will stick to it, and we'll know that we are on the right track. But again, as Heidi had mentioned, the sights squarely have to be set on the Bears. We can't look at the Broncos or Eagles or any other team down the road. The Bears have to be the team in our sights all week.
Yeah, I don't worry about the power rankings. They're interesting to keep an eye on, but they really don't mean anything. In fact, it seems to me, and this is just a superstitious thing as a football fan, it seems to me that we play better the lower we're ranked. So go ahead, rank us low. I'm fine with that. Rank us at 11. Hey, even if we're at 2 or 3, and I'm not saying we're 2 or 3, but even if we are, rank us at 11. That just means superstitiously that we'll do better.
I agree with that.
Tight end Derek Carrier and running back Peyton Barber have been listed as questionable for the upcoming game against the Bears. Carrier has a pectoral injury, while Barber is dealing with turf toe. Perhaps a bigger concern is in the secondary, where Trayvon Mullen, Damon Arnett, and Nate Hobbs are all listed as questionable for the Bears game as of the taping of this podcast on Wednesday night. In other roster news, the Raiders have signed cornerback Brandon Facyson and have designated cornerback Keyshawn Nixon for return to the active roster.
Now, I don't mean to say this in an extremely negative way, but if Damon Arnett misses the next game, I'm not going to miss it that much. Trayvon Mullen, I definitely want to see him on the field. Nate Hobbs, I definitely want to see him on the field. And I would love to see Keyshawn Nixon get some burn against the Bears. But having said that, I'm not saying that Damon Arnett is a total bust now. I still think that there's room for him on the team and he can improve, but he's not there right now.
The injury that worries me the most is Trayvon Mullen. That guy's a really good cornerback, and it's going to be hard to replace him. Hobbs, I believe, practiced today, so I think he'll play. So that should put Amik Robinson on the outside, I believe. Of course, he's a little undersized, so that worries me. Hopefully, Trayvon Mullen can come back. I think it was an ankle injury, so, hopefully he can play through that. I don't really want these new guys coming in. Even though Keyshawn Nixon's been on the team, he hasn't been on the active roster this year. So he doesn't really know too much about the defense, hasn't played in a game in the defense, so I don't really want him on the field. I'd rather have Trayvon Mullen at 80% if he can go. It's unfortunate that Peyton Barber got the turf toe figures, right? Again, we've been beaten over the head by the injury bug with the baseball bat for a few years now, and it's getting old. We got to stop this, and it's hard to stop this because everybody gets injured. But I mean, something about the way, I don't know, something about our luck is really screwing us. Hopefully it doesn't show up too much more this year, and we can just go ahead and play with the full roster. That's what we really need. If we had this roster healthy, we had a really good chance of winning that game. But so this is what really bothers me, is all these injuries.
Yeah, the injuries have hurt us a lot, but as far as the defensive backfield went, I was kind of proud of Amik Robinson. I thought he did pretty good, especially for a little guy. He had a really tough assignment, and for the most part, he did okay. We really didn't hear from Mike Williams that much, or Keenan Allen, and he was pretty much on those two. He did a pretty good job. I was impressed.
Yeah, he's not a terrible cornerback for sure, but Trayvon Mullen is a much better cornerback, so hopefully Trayvon Mullen can come back.
Yeah. All right, looking at the rest of the division, this week the Raiders play at home against the Bears, while the Chargers are headed to Cleveland. Denver travels to Pittsburgh, and the bottom-dwelling, oh man, that sounds good, bottom-dwelling Kansas City Chiefs, we love saying that, are hosting the Buffalo Bills. The Raiders' home game would appear to be the most winnable game in the division in Week 5.
I just don't want our team to go in thinking like that. This is not going to be an easy win. Remember, Khalil Mack is on the other side. They do have a defense. Now they have a quarterback that's coming in. We don't have a lot of tape on. So this is not necessarily going to be an easy win. I think this is going to be a defensive struggle. And I think that, especially considering that our offensive line is not up to par right now, this is going to be a struggle. A low-scoring game, a defensive game. I think this is one of the games that we're going to need our defense to score. And I mean, that really changes a game. So if we can get our defense to score, then we could probably run away with this game. But it's going to take our defense playing really well, better than the Bears' defense.
And Heidi, I think you called it when you said that the Bears are an NFL team, and we've already seen that any team can beat any other team in a given week. But looking at the level of competition that the rest of the AFC West plays this week, it's going to be difficult games for all of them. I would love nothing better than to have the Raiders be 4-1 and have every other team be at least one game back or even 2 games back. That would suit me nicely.
And that's very possible, so we'll see what happens. Okay, what is something that we need to fix before Sunday's game? We are each going to dissect one area of concern that the Raiders need to turn around quickly. Now, my area of concern is the one that is the most blatant and obvious, the offensive line. The defensive backfield is worrisome because there are just so many injuries, plain and simple. I think if it wouldn't be for the injuries, we'd be looking pretty good there. But the offensive line, oh dear. Andre James, I'm not saying I want to squash his confidence, but it might be time to look at Martin or bringing Morrissey up. I believe Morrissey is still on the practice squad. I would like to see them try him out at center possibly, but maybe move him to guard and see how he works there. Move Andre James to guard and see how he works there. I'm also not opposed to moving Alex Leatherwood inside to right guard and maybe moving Brandon Parker out to right tackle. Now, I can't believe I'm saying that, but it might actually be better. My concern in doing that, though, is you don't want to destroy Alex Leatherwood's confidence. He's a rookie. He's got ants in his pants. He's always jumping back, but he'll get it. He eventually will get it. The problem is, will he get it at the right tackle position? He came into college playing guard. He won a lot of awards playing guard. Then he moved to left tackle. He's a new right tackle. He hasn't played that position very much. So do we give up on him right away? I don't think we want to do that. But we need to consider that his natural position might be at guard, and he's just going to struggle as tackle because he's not a tackle. But that's where we need to look at quickly. We need to look at the players that we already have, hope that the injury bug quits biting the offensive line, and put each player we have in a position to be successful. And if that means rearranging the middle part of the line, we just might have to do that.
Yeah, I'm totally 100% in agreement with you bringing in Jimmy Morrissey, at least bringing him onto the active roster and seeing where he's going to be a best fit. Center, guard, he is one of those multiple position guys. He can fit all up and down the line. So let's see where he fits best. I would have no problem with bringing Nick Martin in, maybe not this game coming up, but maybe the next game, so that Andre James knows that he's got a guy breathing down his neck. And Andre James did better snapping the ball as the game progressed, but the blocking was just atrocious, and that's got to be fixed. I would have no problem moving Andre James to guard. I think Leatherwood needs to stay at tackle at least for the next couple of games. I agree with you that we don't need to shatter his confidence, and I think if we can bring a tight end in or a back to kind of chip away at some of the rushers coming in, that's going to help build that confidence level up and also help with that level of protection. So I agree with you. There are some changes that can be made, but some things I think we need to at least stand pat for another week or two.
We know that the team is trying out Leatherwood at guard, but if Leatherwood can't handle Khalil Mack at right tackle. I wouldn't mind seeing Brandon Parker come in and play right tackle. He has a little bit more experience. And then as far as moving Nick Martin in, I'd love to see him come in right now. He was one of 7 centers to only allow 1 sack last year, and he's a veteran. So I'd like to see Martin in this week. And yeah, maybe James at guard, or why not bring up Morrissey at guard? Something has to be done. Something has to be done with this offensive line. Now, I remember Colton Miller not being all that great his first year, so I'm willing to be patient with Leatherwood, but I think that this is a must-win game. So if Leatherwood cannot handle Khalil Mack, then we have to pull him and bring in Brandon Parker. Now, maybe that's why they're trying Leatherwood at guard. Maybe they feel if Leatherwood cannot handle Mack, they'll pull in Parker and then move Leatherwood to guard for just that game. But I think that these are just growing pains. But if we're going to try to get into the playoffs, we have to be ready to make moves on the offensive line. And if that means Leatherwood goes to the inside, that's what that means. Now, my area of concern, other than the offensive line, that would have been my number one area of concern. But, of course, Heidi, she always takes the obvious and easy way out. I'll go with the linebacking core. I know that...
Thank you.
I love you, Heidi. I'll go with the linebacking core, okay, because we were expecting a lot from this linebacking core. You know, everybody was clamoring for KJ Wright. We got him. Maybe he needs a little bit of time to work into, this new season or whatever, but he needs to step it up. But the main thing is once the running backs get past the line, the middle of the defense is wide open. So our linebacking core has to come together and close those gaps in the middle of the offense. You have to shut that down. You cannot let these running backs just run up the middle all over us. That's going to kill us all season long. So the linebacking core has to play better against the run, and really, that's about it for me. I'd like to see Kwiatkowski maybe. I know that they got, let's see, if I'm looking at the roster, they got KJ Wright at strong side and Perryman, and then Littleton on the weak side. I'd like to see Kwiatkowski, maybe at strong side. Now, I know people are like, what? No. But remember, Kwiatkowski had that great one-handed interception last year. And, he's still pretty good hitter. He's a thumper, So maybe put Kwiatkowski in and strong side because KJ Wright may not be ready. But Denzel Perryman's playing well. I do like what he does. That guy's always hitting everybody. But I think that the second major concern for us is at the linebacking core outside of all the injuries everywhere. But the linebacking core really needs to not allow the opposing offense to run up the middle like they have been.
I think the linebacking core has improved over last year, although that's not really saying all that much. Corey Littleton still does not have it. Whatever it is, he doesn't have it. I really accepted his explanation that Paul Gunther and his system was the issue. Well, Paul Gunther's gone, and that system's gone, and Corey Littleton still has issues. I'm a little concerned about that. I do know that Jalen Smith is out there. I would say he'd be an improvement over him.
Well, I will disagree with you on that. I saw Jalen Smith play down in Dallas, and there's a reason why they cut him loose. He's an overpaid guy, and he just can't make it side to side. He's a front-to-back guy. He can come up and support the rush, but we need linebackers that can play east-west, side to side. He cannot do that. I think that would be a big mistake bringing him in.
Well, after watching the Chargers game, we need one that can go north to south, too. Desperately.
That's true.
We're 3-1. I don't think it's time to start just bringing in anybody, right? We brought in KJ Wright, and we still remains to be seen, right? And everybody thought, we bring him in, and that solves our linebacking problem. So, like I said, I'd rather see Kwiatkowski either coming on the strong side or maybe even on the weak side if Littleton's not playing that well. And, of course, he's not. But I think that we have the guys on the team, but they just got to get it together. They got to find the right spot, Kwiatkowski is a good hitter. I like him. So put him back in there. Stop that run in the middle, and I think we're fine. But don't go out and start signing a bunch of people.
Wright and Perryman both played solid games in the first game of the season. And Littleton has had his moments, but not nearly enough.
What is the status on Morrow?
I heard at least 2 more weeks. That's what I heard from somebody in Vegas earlier today, but I can't confirm that.
He would be a big help. He would be a really big help. But 2 weeks is a long time.
It is a long time. Yeah. Now, I'll tell you, my area of concern is Gruden's play calling early. Now, I'm looking for the short pass in order to set up the run. We have to wash that bad taste out of our mouths and realize that this is a good team and it can be a winning team. It is a winning team. Now, just like they did in Pittsburgh, I think that's the formula for controlling the ball and the clock and scoring first and then putting the pressure squarely on Chicago's young quarterback. A lot of people forget they're going to be running Justin Fields out there. I think with the young quarterback coming in, we really need to bring the heat. Let this be young Justin Fields' baptism of fire. At least 5 sacks and at least 1 turnover. Now, am I asking a lot? Maybe. But this is the week when a pissed-off Raider team needs to serve notice to the entire NFL. They just need to bring it.
Well, I believe the Bears are averaging giving up, 4 sacks a game. So 5 isn't out of the question, that's for sure. And we definitely need a turnover. Turnovers is, and I've said it many times, turnovers is what made 2016 great. And of course, Carr's comebacks. Yes, I know, Homer. But the turnovers made all the difference in the world.
Just like last year, I think right now Gruden's play calling, his hands are tied. Of course, we don't have the offensive line. We're talking about that. They can give Carr the time to go deep, as much as they might want to, and they have been going deep a lot more this season, but they want more time. So I think that he's handcuffed right now, especially with the offensive line, because Gruden, we need the run game, period. And we need to be able to line up and just fire off the ball, whether they know we're doing it or not, and get the yardage that we need. So I think that Gruden's play calling is, again, his hands are tied because of our offensive line. So I think Gruden is a smart enough coach to look at the big picture and know that he can't just call whatever he wants to, especially right now.
Yeah, but if the run game is obviously not working, you don't go for it at 4th and 1 with a run.
You become one-dimensional if you only pass. If you only pass, you become one-dimensional.
If you pass, though, you can open up.
If you only pass, then they're just going to line up. They're just going to line up and start picking off the ball. We cannot sit here and say, just pass the ball then, and then go back later and say, man, we're just passing too much, or we're one-dimensional. It will make us one-dimensional if we only pass the ball. In the Dolphin game, we just stayed with the run, and at the end of that game, we were able to start running again because we were able to make the defense tired. But it didn't happen this game because we couldn't stay on the damn field and pick up any first downs. But if you pass all the time,
Did I say pass all the time?
So that to me is not a good take.
Did I say pass all the time? I never said pass all the time. But you need.
I'm just saying you're making it sound like that. You're making it sound like that.
If the ball is just not being moved on the ground, like T3 said, throw in the screens, throw in a variety of passes, do something to jumpstart it. You can open up the run game by being successful in the passing game. It is possible.
I think you hamstring your offense more when you try to go to something that obviously is not working. So when you try to continue to run the ball and say...
So we're having all these injuries on the line, but we got a backup right guard that we just signed off the street, and you think we can just run the screen. The screen takes timing. The screen takes, the ability to pull it off. And I'll tell you what, if I'm on the defense and I know that they really can't run, I'm looking for the screen too.
Well...
Those defensive linemen are going to be looking for that screen. They were probably looking for the screen the entire game.
One thing the Chargers did...
That's a great idea, right? But to just understand that the Chargers defensive coordinators are thinking that too. Oh, watch out for the screen. Watch out for the screen. They want to do that because the offensive line is banged up. So they want to watch the screen. Watch the screen.
The one thing that the Chargers did effectively, though, is they took Darren Waller out of the game. Now, Darren Waller still got some catches, but they effectively took him out of the game. And that's when they had to revert to the number 2 and 3 receivers. But again, Renfro was able to eat quite a bit, but there wasn't a whole lot of variety.
Balance. Let's just do balance.
Yeah, but balance, you got to be able to run the ball.
All right, let's look at the Bears coming into Allegiant Stadium. Do we win the game? What will the score be? And what will be the key to victory this week? We'll start with Homer.
The key to victory this week, you're going to have to block Khalil Mack, period. You got to block Khalil Mack. You cannot let Khalil Mack destroy Leatherwood. You have to be able to make adjustments if that's the case. I'm not necessarily a believer in Foster Moreau's blocking ability. I know they brought him in to be the blocker, but I think against the Dolphins he kind of got exposed a little bit. So I'm not really confident that, putting him in there is going to really help. It's going to take Leatherwood. The key to the victory is blocking Khalil Mack, so it's going to take Leatherwood to step up. This guy needs to say, hey, I'm not going to get beat. I just got my ass kicked, and the Raider Nation is running me through the mud. I am going to step up and knock Khalil Mack's face off, over and over and over again. So the key to victory is being able to block Khalil Mack.
All right, now, okay, it was a bad week last week. The Raiders simply cannot let teams get way up on them and then try to battle back. Well, despite the injuries and despite the weaknesses along that offensive line, this is a good team. And I think they'll find a way to shake off the loss to the Chargers and pick up a win, extending their home record to 3-0. I didn't think they would win against the Chargers, and I'm not ready to hit the panic button like a lot of Raider Nation's already starting to do. Just focus on the fundamentals, cover the middle, protect Carr better, and get some turnovers. I see the Raiders coming away with a victory, and I say the score will be 30-13. Okay, Heidi, how do you see it shaking out?
Well, I do also see the Raiders coming away with a victory, and the way they will do that is they will be able to start the game awake. They need to start and actually play. We've had like 8 or 9 opening drives where we haven't scored a touchdown. And that's ridiculous. We need to score something. At the very least, we need a field goal, but we really need to have a touchdown. Punch them in the mouth, bloody their nose, and let them know that we're there to play. None of this lackadaisical stuff, ho-humming through the first quarter or through the first half. We just need to start on time and actually be there at the kickoff and be ready to go.
I'm glad you said punch them in the nose. I thought you were going to say something else.
Punch them in the mouth.
nuts.
Punch them in the mouth and bloody their nose. That's a 1-2. It's a 1-2 punch. Bum, bum, boom.
Do whatever you got to do. If you got to punch them in the nuts, punch them in the nuts.
You use your knee for that. I'm not that short.
It gets pretty dirty in those dog piles, so I'm pretty sure that it's easy to punch somebody in the nuts. Do what you got to do. But I forgot to give my prediction, of course, again. I think this is going to be a defensive struggle. With our offensive line playing the way it is, and both of us having good defenses, I think this is going to be a defensive struggle. But this is a must-win for the Raiders, so I'm going with the win. But I'm going to say we're going to win this game 21-17.
Okay, thank you, Homer. But yeah, like I was saying, we need to start fast. We need to start awake. That's going to be the key. Obviously, the things like the offensive line standing up and stopping Khalil Mack is going to be a key. But we can't do that if we're asleep at the start of the game. We've got to wake up and be ready to go. Pin your ears back and win. Just win. Don't sleepwalk through the first half. It's going to kill us. And it caught up to us with the Chargers. You can't do that against good teams. You can't do that against bad teams and continue to do it and expect to always win. So start fast. Whether Gruden needs to change up his opening script, I know that he's a coach that opens with a certain script. I don't know if that's the reason it's not working or what, but something needs to change that we're awake at the start of the game. Okay, T3, how about bringing us your top 3 for the week?
T3's top 3.
All right, here is this week's top 3. Number 1, I talked about the referees ad nauseum during last week's show. So Darren Waller spikes the ball twice, and one of those times gets him a taunting penalty. Now, I've always hated this rule, but I especially hate that it's not called consistently. If the rule's not going to be fairly and evenly implemented, it needs to be done away with. Now, I'm not just saying this because Waller was unfairly targeted during the game, but for referees who already find it hard enough to think for themselves, let's just remove it from the equation. Number 2, if Peyton Barber can't make a go of it, Josh Jacobs is still working his way back, and Kenyon Drake is falling out of favor in the run game, perhaps this is the best possible scenario for Jalen Richard to bounce back and make his presence felt. Now, as I've said before, I didn't think he should have made the roster, but I want this to be the week that he simply proves me and all the rest of the doubters wrong. And number 3, I know he's had to help out with blocking, but what I would really love to see this week is Foster Moreau slip past the line and gather in several passes this week against Chicago. That could be just enough to open the floodgates for Waller to have a huge day. And I also want to see a jet sweep or a bubble screen to Henry Ruggs let the speed and the matchup advantages for the Raiders unfold and be unleashed. And let's be the first ones to score this week. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is this week's top 3.
Oh man, I hated that call against Waller. It wasn't taunting. I don't even think it's in his nature to taunt. But the fact that it was on the opposing team's sideline, they made the excuse, oh yeah, that's taunting. He was happy. He was a little frustrated that he didn't make it farther. So what? He spiked the ball. Big deal. Whatever. The running game is, well, it's still in shambles. I don't think Josh Jacobs should have played last week. He was still obviously very injured, and he just doesn't have whatever that it factor is. It's just not there right now. He's still battling, and he's still trying to play through that injury. It is a good chance for Jalen Richard to bounce back and to make his presence felt. Whether they'll actually do it, I don't know. I don't know if the Raiders are going to try to elevate Trey Regis again and see what he does. It would be nice to see maybe even Alec Ingold in there a little bit, although I know that he was struggling through an injury last week. He's an incredible blocker, but, maybe give him 1 or 2 carries just to see what happens, just to shake things up. And Foster Moreau, he is the dude that I have been calling for since after he got injured his rookie year. I love him in the passing game. I would love to see him be used in the passing game. I think he really would be a key to springing Waller loose. I think you're dead on with that, T3. And it's something that can be done. It's something he's capable of doing. Let's feed him the ball and see what happens.
As far as Darren Waller spiking the ball, don't spike the ball. Get your ass up and get back in the huddle. I'm going to be quite honest. I'm getting tired of seeing all this flexing, spiking the ball, and all the celebrations. Man, I was a Tim Brown fan through the 90s. He spiked the ball when he got in the end zone and run back. Think about Barry Sanders, right? That dude he just hand the ball. Don't spike the ball. Don't spike the ball. You're behind. You're being shut down for the last couple of the games, so don't spike the ball. That's all I'm saying. I love Darren Waller. I know people want it to be fun and all this and that, but I'm not looking at it like that. You know what I mean? You as a professional player should know that, you know what, I'm just going to get up and get back in the huddle. We need to win this game. So that's how I feel about that. Kenyon Drake needs to run a little bit better, but of course, who's running all that great with this offensive line? So I'm not ready to give up on Kenyon Drake at all. I'd like to see him come in, let him play a little bit more. That's why we paid him. Keep him in there, especially coming out of the backfield. That would really help. That would really help a lot, as a matter of fact, him coming out of the backfield, even in a running formation. Having him hit the flat, I think, would be beneficial to the team overall. And then Foster Moreau, I don't trust that he's going to be able to block Khalil Mack. So maybe him slipping out and getting little hitches or something like that to kind of negate that pass rush is something that we need to do. Because Foster Moreau is a great tight end, but he's going to be facing Khalil Mack. So this is kind of where I would like to see really Foster Moreau just step it up and be the best blocking tight end we've ever seen. But I just don't think that he is that type of tight end, not yet. He's a great pass catcher. So, yeah, they're going to have to look for him after he chips Khalil Mack a lot, I believe.
Well, we have another really good blocking tight end on the roster, though. Guy by the name of Derek Carrier.
Yeah, but didn't he get hurt with the pectoral injury?
Yeah.
He got hurt. He's listed as questionable, but hopefully he can get back in. All right. Now it's time for Homer's Hammer. Faster than Henry Ruggs, more powerful than Bo Jackson on Tecmo Bowl. Able to leap tall social media trolls in a single bound. Look, they're in the toolbox. It's a nail. Nailed it. It's a screw. Driver. No, it's
Homer's Hammer. So this week, I want to drop the hammer on all the people that are calling into Raider Nation Radio and complaining. And all the people complaining on social media. We're 3-1. We know we're dealing with injuries. It's embarrassing to see the Raider Nation act like this. When you got JT the Brick calling out the Raider Nation, saying you shouldn't be on social media trashing Leatherwood, take that to heart, Raider Nation. These guys are paying attention. They keep saying, well, what is it that these players want to leave? Have you ever stopped to think that maybe it's us? Have you ever stopped to think that sometimes maybe we just troll these players so much as the fan base that they don't want to deal with that anymore? That could be a possibility. So I'm just saying, as a fan base, remember, it's win, lose, or tie. I'm a Raider until I die. Okay? You're not a Raider fan if you sit there and complain all the damn time. It's asinine because the only control you have over this team is you yourself not watching. If you can't handle the heat, get the hell out of the kitchen, right? I'm tired of it all the time. I cannot stand when Raider Nation does this. I cannot stand when Raider Nation just tries to pick the team apart. We're 3-1 right now with an offensive line that isn't playing well at all. So just hold your water, all right? Act like some grown men, all right? And don't complain about it. The shit gets old all the time. It makes it no fun. I don't hang around people like that. And as a matter of fact, when I have to hear a long call, I'll sometimes just tune out of Raider Nation Radio because I cannot stand listening to Raider Nation bitch and complain about a team that they say they love, that they've been watching lose for the last 20 years. If you're jaded, stop watching. Your mental health depends on it, right? Like, stop. Or don't press post. Don't be that guy because I'm going to tell you what. When they do win a Super Bowl, you're going to look like a fucking moron talking about, oh, I knew they had it in them. You know what I mean? So hold your horses, stop being a bunch of crybabies, and fucking shut up and watch the Raiders.
I couldn't agree with you more, but was that a little shot there?
I'm always taking shots. Heidi knows this.
Shots fired.
But Heidi, don't take me too seriously because I'm not calling you a moron. You know what I mean? But there are some people out there that act like fucking morons, and it's disgusting.
I think a lot of people, particularly the Fairweather fans, take too much pride in patting themselves on the back and say, hey, I'm undefeated as an owner, because they are. They're undefeated as owners of the team. 0-0. That's undefeated. But I think a lot of people hide behind that, and they think that they are the most excellent GMs on the face of the planet, or owners, or whatever they do in their fantasy leagues. I could give a crap, but I agree with you. I'm not happy with the way things go sometimes, but if you're a true fan, you weather the storm, and you know that there are good days coming, and you look forward for those days coming, and you don't give up hope that those days are coming. I think a lot of us sit back and we hear all the things that come out on Raider Nation Radio and the talk shows and everything else. And I shake my head and laugh a lot and just think to myself, just what complete idiots. And realize that a lot of idiots just love to hear themselves talk.
It makes it no fun. You know what I mean? Because we're all watching the team lose through the years. You're not some elite fan because you see what's wrong with the team. And I'm not some elite fan because I sit here and talk about the team on a podcast. I'm just sitting here talking to my friends about the Raiders, and people are listening. So I appreciate that. But, we don't really know shit, right? We're not trained professionals. This is an opinion piece. You know what I mean? If you were that good at building a team, you'd be in the NFL or you'd be a Madden champion. If you're not either one of those, be quiet.
We wouldn't be on a podcast.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We wouldn't be on a podcast.
Right. So that's all I'm saying. It's like, because really it's embarrassing. It really is. Because think about it. Other fan bases see that too. Think about that. The players see that. The owners see that. The coach see that. The other fan bases see that. They'd look at us and laugh sometimes. Don't let yourself be that fair weather fan. You know, if you want to be the guy that says, I told you so, be a homer.
I loved how Colin Cowherd came out last week and ranked the Denver Broncos as his number 4 team with their 2-1 record.
Yeah.
So
Hey,
wait
they
a
were
minute.
3-0. They were 3-0.
I know, but they flashed up on he was talking about them. They flashed up 2-1, the 2-1 Broncos. I'm like, boy, there's a professional for you.
Yeah. And, you know I come off as overcritical sometimes, but the thing is, I honestly believe in the Raiders. I was telling Homer about a conversation I had with Andrea Trask before the season even started. She mentioned something. She's like, well, I know you don't really like Carr. And I was all, no, I love Carr. She said, well, yeah, you love him as a person, but not as a quarterback. I said, no, I love him as a quarterback. I absolutely believe that he can bring us to a championship. And if he has the right support around him, he will. So I don't want people to think that just because I'm critical sometimes and I try to be balanced and look at both sides, that I'm overly critical. So I try not to be one of those panic-ridden people that Homer has to listen to as I call and scream and cry on Raider Nation Radio or on Locked On Raiders or anything like that. I just try to be reasonable, and hopefully I'm not one of those people that Homer is talking about.
No, you're not. You're not at all. It's a matter of fact, even though we bump heads, I appreciate that you remain calm. You don't really say things that would embarrass the fan base.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying is, like, it's one thing to be objective, okay? I'm a homer. Everybody knows that. That's why they call me Raider Homer.
And we love you.
I'm going to go with the team. You know what I mean? Because like I said, it's asinine to sit there and complain about something when really all you need to do is walk away from it if it's driving you that crazy. Because you have no control over it. But Heidi, you at least come with some facts. You know, you at least come with a cool, even-headed tone even. You know what I mean? Your mind is level-headed and you do your research. So, you know, even though I toy with you, it's just because you make fun of me during my segments. You know what I mean? That's what I'm going to do. But at the same time, you are not these people. You are not these assholes out there that are embarrassing the Raider Nation. So, yeah, I just took a shot at you with, you know, what you have said in previous episodes, but I'm not saying that is you at all. Believe me.
Hey, you know, to put a little on this, I'm amazed at the number of people, fans and talking heads alike, who simply believe for all this time that John Gruden hates Derek Carr and that he doesn't believe in Derek Carr. I keep hearing it week after week after week. It's just amazing.
Okay, lid put on it. Note to self, be sure to mark episode as explicit due to Homer's outbursts in the episode this week.
My bad.
I love you, Homer.
I love you too.
I said crap.
Hey, potty mouth, watch it.
I love both you guys.
We love you too.
All right, give us a call at 904-701-8667. Leave us a voicemail or text message at that number, or send in a message via social media, and we'll share your thoughts. And this week, let's see, what's going on with Raider Roots? T3, I believe it was 1969.
This week we focus on 1969. There's a lot of information about John Madden, the backstory that brings him into the fold as the Raiders head coach, and some interesting things about the season itself. So make sure you tune in, and you'll also hear the story of Big Al and Little Al.
Another great episode. All right, T3, let's find out what Homer doesn't know.
Hey Homer, did you know?
All right, now it's time for another edition of Hey Homer, Did You Know? In this segment, I will ask Homer and Heidi and the rest of our listening audience a Raiders-related question with 3 possible answers to choose from. It's multiple choice, so just give it your best guess. So here goes. Here's this week's question. Now, a couple of days ago, I saw a poll question posted by the Bears fan base, and here was the question. Which player from the Raiders would you most like to steal and have on the Bears' active roster? So which player do you think got the most votes? Was it A, kicker Daniel Carlson, B, tight end Darren Waller, or C, defensive end Max Crosby? Homer, what do you think?
I would think that they would want to have B, tight end Darren Waller.
Heidi, what do you think?
Well, they have a pretty decent defense already, and honestly, my mind fails me as far as their kicker goes. But they would have to be crazy to not want Darren Waller because neither one of their tight ends are very high profile and involved in the passing game that much. So I would go with B, Darren Waller.
You know, when I first saw the poll come out, I thought I instantly know who the winner of this is going to be, and the winner got nearly 70% of the vote. And the winner, of course, in this poll was tight end Darren Waller. Now, bear in mind, pun intended, that this was a fan-based poll, and there's no way I can validate its accuracy. But the answer is B, tight end Darren Waller. Everybody is correct.
Now, let me ask you a question. What if the Bears propose a trade for Darren Waller and Khalil Mack?
Nope.
No.
Not happening. Nope.
No.
Did we answer that definitely for you?
Fast enough?
Not even with all the offensive weapons that we have?
Nope.
Nope.
All right, Raider Nation, give us a call. Let us know. What is your opinion?
Yeah, do you think that we should trade Darren Waller for Khalil Mack? A guy whose knees are going out and has lost that extra edge that he had when he was all pro at two positions with us. Which one do you want? Or do you want a younger wide receiver playing tight end who doesn't have a lot of wear and tear on his body because, well, he was kind of suspended for a year and a half, who still has a lot of fire left in the tank? Which one do you think we should get?
No, I'll take Darren Waller because I believe in Max Crosby, but Max Crosby is just as good in my mind as Khalil Mack. Maybe not the athlete that Khalil Mack is, but every bit of the defensive end that Khalil Mack is. So Waller, yeah, I'll keep Waller. But I was just throwing it out there for all you fans that keep complaining about the trade with Khalil Mack. So you know what they think.
I'll trade Damon Arnett for Khalil Mack.
Sold.
Question always is, well, with the Khalil Mack pick, look at who you drafted in the first round, and was it really equivalent? Well, if one of those draft picks would have been Max Crosby, what would Raider Nation say to that? They'd probably be pretty happy with it. We just happened to get him in the fourth round.
That's why I don't really pay attention to all the people that complained about that, because we ended up with Max Crosby, and we got him in the fourth round, right? You know what I mean?
Fourth
he was
round,
a steal.
yes.
So even though, that's why I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to where these players were picked. I know that a lot of times people say that, yes, the best players are in the first round, but a lot of times those top three players are busts. Remember, Tom Brady was a seventh rounder. The draft is just the draft. It's a popularity contest. It's how cool or how well he performed in college, and we all know that doesn't always translate to the NFL. So, but yeah, I'll take Max Crosby, and we won that deal. Josh Jacobs, was drawing comparisons from Marcus Allen to himself and Bo Jackson, right? Damon Arnett, not such a great player. Cleveland Farrell, not such a great player. Abram, a solid player. I mean, I think we're doing all right. I think we did all right in that trade, especially considering that the Bears haven't won a Super Bowl yet.
They've barely been to the playoffs.
They've been to the playoffs for like 3 years, but they just haven't done anything. They haven't won a playoff game.
Right. You missed my pun. They've barely been to the
Ha,
playoffs.
ha, ha.
And now, Raider Nation, it's time for Heidi's Heroes. Oh, yeah, and I got a bone to pick with y'all. You've been letting me say Heidi's Hero for the longest time, and it's right here on the spreadsheet, y'all. Help me out a little bit, okay? Point it out.
Well, sometimes it's a hero and sometimes it's heroes. So it just depends.
Oh, now you just confused me even more.
And if she picks a single hero, she's throwing him into the big realm of Heidi's heroes. So they just join like the Wall of Fame.
No biggie. You've been fine.
Okay.
You've been doing a great job, Homer.
Thank you. That makes me feel
Absolutely
special.
It should, because you've been doing a great job.
Flying away on a wing and a prayer. Who could it be?
Now, this week's hero, I picked from the game. There weren't a lot of guys to pick from, at least not on the Raiders side of the ball. But the gentleman that I picked, he did an incredible thing. Not only did he have 6 receptions for 45 yards and a touchdown, he pretty much kept us in the game on a special teams play. It was a fake punt where the Chargers were about to steal a first down. What had happened was we didn't have somebody on the gunner, and the punter noticed that. So when the ball was snapped, he said, "Oh, I'm going to throw this to the gunner because there's nobody covering him, and he's going to get a first down for us." And Hunter Renfrow saw that, sniffed it out, and moved like a panther, like a ninja in the night. And he flattened the gunner. And it was a perfect textbook tackle. Not only did he tackle him in front of the line to gain marker, he also knocked the ball loose, so it wasn't even a completion. That was the single play that kept us in the game and actually gave us a chance to win. Now, it didn't allow for us to actually win, but that play was the turning point that if we would have pulled it out, we would have been able to look back and say, yes, that's it. That was an incredible play, and he was by far my hero for the week.
And Hunter Renfrow has been such a hero already since he has come on with the Raiders in 2019, and he's done everything asked of him. And if we have one more defensive back go down, I say convert Hunter Renfrow into a defensive back because he made a hell of a play as a defensive back.
He could probably do it too. I've said it many times before that Hunter Renfrow is going to be the next greatest wide receiver that the Raiders draft. I believe that he is a must-sign when his contract comes up. There should be no question that he has to be signed. I love this kid, and once we do re-sign him, I'm definitely buying a Hunter Renfrow jersey. He's just one of those humble guys. I love the meme out there that shows this dude flexing all big and badass and blah, 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 and Hunter Renfrow is just sitting there holding a bag. I don't know what it looks like weed to me, but I doubt it's weed. It's probably Brussels sprouts, but I love the kid. The kid is a great player, and that tackle, man, that just shows you that he's a football player. And that's what we need on this team is football players. Hunter Renfrow, man, you are quickly becoming one of my favorite wide receivers of all time, man. So keep it up, brother, and please re-sign with this team. And I believe he is that type of player. I believe he's that Derek Carr type. I want to be a Raider for my entire career type of player. So this could be a good combination for years to come.
Good hero for the week.
Thank you. He earned it. He totally earned it. And that about does it for this week on the Only Nation podcast. Next week, we'll be back on our regular time, releasing on Wednesdays. If you'd like to help support the show, you can send in a donation at paypal.me/onlynationpod. You can find me, Heidi Stabbert, on social media as @KevlarPromDress on Twitter and Instagram, or Heidi Stabbert on Facebook. You can also find me on YouTube on Captain Jack Rackham's channel every other Tuesday night. I join the DC wench Peggy Holmes and Andrea Trask on the Captain and His Wenches show.
I got to tell you, it was nice not to plug everybody and the dog in this episode, at least until the end of this episode. But, quick shout out to our sponsor, Chucky Stuggs. Please go to chuckystugs.com, enter the promo code Homer to get 15% off of whatever you buy, and enter the Chucky Stuggs flag contest. And just to get yourself a flag for $9.99 off, just enter promo code HomerFlag. Get that flag seen on video during the game this season, and you can win $500. Also, check out jr60brands.com for the fans, by the fans. Great Raider Nation merch. You can find me, Raider Homer, by going to theraiderhomerchannel.buzzsprout.com. There you will find links to all of my social media accounts, as well as to the podcasts that I have on whatever podcasting app that you listen to. And hey, Raider Nation, man, we're still 3-1. Stay cool, stay calm, stay stoic, because we're Raiders until we die.
There you go. Get all those plugs in there. Hey, Raider Nation, we want you with us every step of the way during the regular season. So here's what we want you to do. Send us your name and address so we can send you some free Raiders swag and podcast stickers. Call us and tell us what you want to know. Throw us an interesting nugget that we could use on one of our upcoming episodes and become a part of what we're doing here. Remember, this is the only nation, and we want you to be a part of it. So call us 904-701-8667. That's 904-701-8667. Call us now and join the Only Nation podcast family. There are 2 easy ways to find me on social media. You can send me a tweet at T3_sports703, as several of you do, or you can hit me up on Facebook at Tom, T-H-O-M, Jones. I will do my best to respond back, and I would love to include your comments on an upcoming show. And I thank you for tuning in and also getting involved, and thank you once again for supporting the Raider Roots podcast.
Until next time, everyone, go Raiders.
Go Raiders.
We are not just a nation, we are the only nation, and we're back home.